Yo, yo.
Yo, yo,
That's our intro. Yo, yo.
yo,
Uh,
yo.
it's good to see everybody. Good to see you, Jerem.
Gang, gang, Joe.
Gang, gang. That's
Gang, gang, Ryan. Yeah.
Theo. Yeah, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Good old Theo. Ryan Cardinal already here. Sup, gang. Sup.
Sup,
So
sup.
what? So this is Art Bros. We do this every Wednesday. We
We're
usually talk
bros.
about we're bros,
We do art.
old bros.
Yeah. Yeah. We're 42-year-old.
Hmm.
But that's the answer to the universe. So it's like the magic age past 33, which
Sure.
you are
No.
turning.
I'm turning
What?
34. This is a long
Oh.
story. There's a long story behind the mistake of 33. But I'm turning 34 in like a few days.
I
So
was about to say, I know I wasn't 2 years older than you.
no, dude, no. But yeah, I'm
What a
Joe.
race.
Catapano Art on Twitter if you know me. This is Jeremy, right? Zaid
Well, yeah,
Studios.
today it's Jeremy, Colonel Crack, Zaid Studios.
Right.
Yeah,
Until Mo comes in here, you're Jeremy. Until then, you'll be
yeah,
Colonel Crack. Um, so yeah, on these shows we like to bring some guests on. Last week we did the open mic, the very first open mic, which went pretty swimmingly. I
uh-huh.
thought. You
I
know.
thought so too. It was fun.
Yeah. Reese says happy early birthday. Thank you, Reese.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Uh-huh.
good old friend Joe
Oh,
Sontag's here.
Bud had his birthday last weekend, and I had totally forgot to mention it.
Oh,
So yeah,
really?
uh-huh.
Dude, Shauner just did some magic for us. What's up, Shauner? Yes, thank you for backing Star Circuit. I was just about to show
Go
the
get your bike.
bike. Yeah,
Go
go get the
get your
bike.
bike.
It's the first edition version, but it's pretty cool. So I appreciate you backing. And hail, thank you.
Coleman. Comics mate. G'day. Joe Sontag.
Heck yeah. So we're having a great old time tonight. We have a special guest that you all know from many other streams. He's got his own YouTube channel, he's got his own book. And yeah, we just might as well start talking to him because we only are on for like an hour. So let's get to it. We got Andy Smith with us today. What's up, Andy?
Mm-hmm.
What's up, guys? How's it going? Thank you for
Going
having me.
good.
Oh, doing great.
Cool.
Wednesdays are always my favorite day because one, I don't go to karate and break my bones, and two, and two, I usually have like a nice time with some guests. So it's good to talk with you one on one or two on one. That doesn't sound right.
Oh, hey, I'm happily married. Come on now.
Yeah, no,
It's that
I'm
type of
sorry.
show.
Yeah, I should have warned you. We got a little rowdy. I'm sorry for disrespecting you there for a moment. We've got the abominable grizzly here. Hola, everyone. He says, and hola to you as well. So what's new in the world of comics for you right now, Andy?
Just out promoting First Man Volume 2, of course, trying to get that out there. And,
Oh yeah.
I'm working on a print now because I'm going to be doing a 6x9 or 7x10. I don't know why I say 6x9. 7x10, same size as the book, but it'll be a separate mini print, on a nice heavy stock paper and a nice finish. So I'm working on the original art for that. That's what I was doing today. And
Nice.
hopefully I'll finish it tomorrow because I just have to ink it and then shoot it over to the colorist. So
Is that one of
I'm
your
good at my
shirts?
desk.
Is that one of your shirts right there?
This,
Yes.
oh,
Wow.
this one.
Nice.
I really dig that, man. Is that on the campaign as well somewhere, or is that
No, it's
special?
not. It's no, it's just T Public. So if you go to T Public,
Mm.
I
See if we
don't
got
know
a
if
link
you
for that.
find it. I don't know if you find it by searching it, but I
If you
can
throw it
get
in
a
the
link
private
for it.
chat, we can put
Yeah,
it in.
that's
Yeah,
what
I'll get a link for it.
Cool.
I always throw the links for that stuff below, in the description of the morning show and stuff I do.
hmm
But yeah, I'll get you a link.
Yeah, that'll be cool because I really dig that one. Something about the way it's angled and how it lines up with the figure is great. I dig that.
Oh,
Um,
that's gonna be one of my comments on like the style of art on this is kind of basically what Joe said. I've not seen anyone use perspective so focusedly on the human figure for these you got a lot of dynamic movement with this, and I was like, oh hell yeah, this is cool.
Oh,
I
thank
can't.
you.
I can't wait to talk to you about it as well.
Yeah.
We are streaming also on Facebook, which we usually do, but for some reason we got Teresa coming in from Facebook. What's up?
What's
And
up?
Yeah.
also we have Jeremy Burtz here. Did we say Jeremy Burtz was here?
Yeah. I said hail Jeremy Burtz in the chat.
Oh, I'm sorry, dude. Well, you got a double shout out, Jeremy.
There you
So, what we usually ask right off the bat, because I am a fan of comics in general, and I was like doing a deep dive into a few different older artists, and I knew you were like a protege of Bart Sears. Is that something an accurate
Yeah,
way
yeah.
to put that?
He was, I went to the Kubert School up in Jersey, and in my senior year, he started teaching there, but he wasn't teaching third year, the senior year. He was teaching second year students, but it's not a big school, and you can just walk in and out of classes, not during class, of course, but before in the there's only 2 classes a day. So, in the transition time. And I was like, well, I got to meet this guy, because I was buying, I think, Justice League Europe at the time. It just started coming out, and I love the guy's work. So I was like, yeah, I mean, that's one of the benefits of the school is, Lee Weeks would come in and teach every now and then, Tom Mandrake. But those guys were like substitutes. I mean, Andy and Adam were substitutes a couple times, but Bart was there for a full school year teaching 2 days a week. So at the beginning of the school year, I just went in, introduced myself, showed him some of my work, and we kind of became buddies. And he would tutor me, and I'd go hang out at his place after school while he was working on DC stuff, and I'd work on homework. And he would take tracing paper and throw it over top and be like, try this, or this looks funky. Or if I had a question, I'd be like, oh, what do you think about this? And
That's incredible.
so on and so forth.
From like an outside perspective, like there's not many. A lot of us talk about this where like there's not many of those situations where you have like this one-on-one with a creator with that kind of feedback these days. Maybe it was more common back in the day. Not back in the day, but 10, 20 years ago, it was more common. But yeah, today
George Perez worked for Rich Buckler before he got started professionally.
So it's like
I want to say Dan Atkins worked for Wally Wood. I think Mike Zeck might have helped Wood out on some stuff. I'd have to ask him, but I'm pretty sure that, because I know he's a big fan of Wally Wood. So yeah, I mean, back in the day, you would definitely have, I don't know if it was like, I mean, everybody's thing is different. I was going to say, I don't know if it was as intense as mine was. I mean, mine wasn't like intense, like Bart was cracking a whip. We just got to the point within probably a few weeks of me coming down to the classroom and showing him work, that within probably a month or so, he was like, just, if you want to hang out at my apartment whenever after school and work on your homework, I'll just be at my desk drawing stuff anyhow. So it won't bother me, and it's cool to have somebody to talk to. So I was like, okay. So I would just, like I said, drive over and I did, if I had a problem drawing something, which, I was in school, so, I was still learning. I mean, everybody's still learning, but back then especially learning, trying to figure things out. I'd ask him for advice, or like I said, I'd show him something that I got finished with and be like, what do you think? And he'd take some tracing paper, throw it over top, and, show me obviously what in his mind is the way to do it. That's why my style in the beginning really reflected his, because more than anybody out of the 3 years at the school, he was the one that really had the biggest impact on me for those 9 months. Kind of like, I had Joe Kubert for 2 years at the school, but I only had him 1 day a week. And while he would put tracing paper over stuff and do the exact same stuff, I mean, every teacher did that. You're looking at like 1 day a week. And I saw Joe almost every day at the school, but I only had him as a teacher once. But, I guess you could almost compare it to, if you look at like Andy Kubert's and Adam Kubert's very early work, especially Andy, you would look at it and be like, oh my God, this is like Joe Jr., right? That's how stylistically Andy's stuff was compared to Joe's. it was almost like a mimic of it.
Right.
And it makes sense. You know, Joe's their dad. Joe's going over their stuff more than what Bart was doing with me.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of how, you know, it
Yeah.
came about style.
That seems like it translates. I know several people that have, you know, that kind of mentorship. I would say it's something like
Mhm.
that, a mentor, like a peer in some ways. I guess maybe as you went along, it became more of a peer like kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Oh yeah, totally now. Yeah.
Yeah, I figured that's exactly what it feels
And
like.
Joe's mom is an art teacher,
Hmm.
so that he kind of grew up with an art teacher always kind of pushing him, or at least his brother, very much so.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
it's odd. As a kid, I didn't draw at all, and it's the last thing I
He
thought
was a
I'd be doing.
closet artist, man. He
Yeah,
came out like just a few years ago.
I did just about everything else creative that you could think of,
Positive.
Yeah.
and whatever it is, like you know, I was in drama, did you
Oh cool.
know all these other things that I also don't do now, and don't you know I played music and all these other things, but now all I do is draw, and
Sure.
it's just an odd thing how that happens. But I'm glad to have you here. I definitely want to pick your brain on some of the detailed art
Definitely.
stuff. But you have your sequel to First Man out right now. Let's pull up the page right away. So
There it
is this your first foray, if you will, into like an indie book that you maybe wrote and drew, or did you write this as well?
I'm co-writing it with a good buddy of mine that I've known for 30 years. I basically have the bare bone plot of where I want the story to go, and then we get on the phone and just talk it over and stuff. And I kind of like, all right, you know, get back to me in a week or whatever after you stewed on it. Let me know what you came up with to expand the scenes, because I almost have bullet points like, oh, I want this, and I think it needs to, you know, kind of take this path throughout the story. And it's his job to kind of tie all that stuff together, pull those threads together into a
Right.
cohesive story.
That's cool. A nice collaborator is I mean everybody needs it, but now that you have like this, I guess this mutual kind of writership, I think it makes it even easier because you're going to bounce ideas more
Oh yeah.
immediately. Real quick, let's say hello. Lola Meets is here. Good to see you, Lola. And also,
Sherry.
my girlfriend shows up. She says I like to swing dance. Not
Oh,
really.
collision bombs in. Yeah.
Collision
Oh,
bombs
I'm
say
just
here.
glad
what?
I'm glad dance was on the end of that sentence. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. It could get slightly TikToky after that. If
That
not.
would. Oh, is this OnlyFans? Wait, I thought it was YouTube. What's going
Yeah,
on?
we are.
Robert Paul Champagne. No, don't do that. No.
So, Comicsgate is the name of the game here. We love indie comics here. We love getting you what you want, and I feel like First Man is pretty much you're fulfilling. I feel like what Bart, what you know, a lot of the older school guys like emphasize in their figures and emphasize in the superhero comics. You're giving it to us in a fresh way. That to me, that's what it feels like. But
Yeah, that's what
what's
I'm
the
trying
goal
to
with
do.
what's the goal with maybe the themes of it, or maybe just having fun with it? What's your goals there?
I mean, the overall goal is I just, you know, I grew up reading comics in the 80s, early 80s. And then of course through that I went back and got stuff from the 70s, and I really like the Silver Age stuff. I definitely like the more and this could be, you know, you remember things differently, but one of the things I remember from back then is it almost seemed like the stories were basically one and done in the issue. Now there were some subplots, small subplots that would go through the next issue and so on and so forth. But it seemed like a lot of times you could pick up a Spider-Man or something and just read it and it's a one and done. And even if it was to be continued, it might be that little subplot, but not the general gist of it to where it's like, yeah, we got to do 6 of these so we can put out the trade. That wasn't a
Mm,
thing really back then. So I kind of want to get back to doing one and dones. So, you know, there's a volume one that tells a complete story, but then we go to volume two that does have a little bit of subplot from volume one, but it starts a brand new story, a brand new adventure for Luke Henry, who's the character, who's the teenager that turns into First Man. So he has a brand new adventure to go on, which will wrap up by the end of this one. And I like stories that have a nice balance of action and adventure, of course, when it comes to the villains and whatnot. But I also like stories where you really get a nice sense of the other side of the character, the non superhero side. And for this, it's when he's Luke Henry as the college kid that still lives at home with his mom and dad, who are the only two people that know his secret. And it's one of those things where you can always get advice from your parents. And even though his dad isn't a superhero, has never been a superhero, he's just been a normal guy working going to school, getting a job, getting married, having their one son. He can still impart life knowledge to his son to help him become the hero he needs to be. And that's why the story is called Learning Curve, is because Luke Henry needs to learn how to balance, going to college, being this brand new superhero, because he's only been around for about a month at this time, if you take into account everything from the first book.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's this juggling act that he has to try and figure out and see how he can fit in to the world and be helpful.
It looks really cool, I've got to say. It's like a to me, I'm a big Green Lantern fan, and there's like this.
I love Green Lantern.
Yeah, it's some of my favorite stuff. So I didn't back the first one, but I was meaning to. It just slips away sometimes when you want to. But I plan to maybe get the double on this one. That way I can catch up. I'm sure you've got a perk for that.
Of course I do.
Awesome.
So the featured perk, there's a program book that came with the first one. Well, I mean, you could add it on or buy it separately. It's 40 pages and it's stapled, and the first 15 or so are just cool shots of First Man by different artists like Adam Hughes, Alan Davis, Kevin Nolan, George Perez, and a bunch more. And then the rest of the book, the other like 25 pages or so, is behind the scenes stuff, like character sketches, unused page layouts that were used so you could see the beginning of a page. There's even a 2-page spread where I show the 3D model I made of the bad guy Monarch from the first book, his spaceship. I designed it in a 3D program called SketchUp.
Cool.
And so I put that model in the book just because I thought it'd be cool to show people.
I'm all interested in that. I mean, you're on Art Bros, so both me and Jeremy have our stuff, and that's what we focus on mostly is the artwork and storytelling. So we're stoked to have you here. I see all your process work on your stream. If you haven't been to Andy's stream, go check it out. It's usually in the mornings. What time in the mornings usually?
It's like 8:30 Eastern, 8:30, 9 o'clock. I mean, I try to do 8:30 unless my kid has to work at 9. Then I have to take her to work. Well, so then it would be 9:30.
Well, either way, it's pretty consistent for the most part. I always get the notification and check in once in a while. It's definitely fun, and like I said, you get to see the process. I remembered. As you're getting to the head sketch stuff, I think I was waiting. I was saving enough money to get a commission perk last time, and I just fell away from me. So maybe that's another redemption I can do.
Yes, you can do you do a head sketch. You pick the character. I don't. So
Nice.
I asked for three characters, and I picked 1 out of 3 because then the person still gets a surprise.
Okay. Cool.
But I mean, honestly, I had one guy go Jean Grey, Colossus, or Storm. I was really hoping for Storm, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I'm not that tough. So
Nice. Yeah. So that's something actually would be really cool to see, or get for anybody. But for me, I'm stoked to talk to you about the artwork. So what's the like? It seems like you've drawn a lot from obviously your relationship with Bart and Joe at school, but also like where are you pulling? I guess early on, where did you pull from? Life, or did you pull from a certain other artist?
No, I didn't really start dealing with life. The whole you need to study life probably until the Kubert School. I was the typical bought comics, was like, oh my God, this Captain America by Mike Zeck is awesome. Um, so I would try and riff some of his stuff. John Byrne, of course.
Oh yeah.
Love Neil Adams. Alan Davis was just starting in the American market when I was starting to read comics in the early 80s. And of course, I went back and got some of the stuff he did over in the UK where he lived, and the Captain Britain magazines and stuff.
You like Norm Breyfogle, the
I
Dark
like
Knight?
Norm's work. Yeah, I like Norm's work.
I'm a fan of some of his stuff.
And you know, Norm, he started before me. Now you get into that thing of like what I say is like closing the gap. Whereas, you know, Bart started in comics, I think in 1985. So it was 85 or 86. So he basically started, I think it was 85, 6 years before me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know, 6 years when you're 15 years old, which I was in 85, you're like, well, one, I didn't know how old the guy was. But once I found out how old he was, once we became friends,
Mm-hmm.
and you think back, you go, wow, you're only 6 years older than me. So we are, even though you started 6 years before me, we are kind of more contemporaries.
Right.
And Breyfogle's that way too. He started just a few years before me.
Yeah,
I guess if it's like in a 5-year window, I almost look at them as contemporaries.
Mm-hmm. I would say too. I saw a lot of his work. I think in the Legend of Dark Knight. That's what he's known for, I think. But yeah, it reminded me of some of your work. There's like tinges, not a lot, but some tinges of just how I guess maybe you draw a certain anatomy. I guess.
Well, part of it's because when I was learning to draw on my own, you know, obviously I got How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. I looked at Bern Hogarth. I looked at George Bridgman. When I got into Kubert School, I started looking at Andrew Loomis. And then once I became friends with Bart and went over to his apartment, his studio, we all have How to Draw books. And I saw some of his How to Draw books. We had the same likes: George Bridgman, Andrew Loomis, Bern Hogarth. And, you know, when you're starting to draw, when you're learning to draw the figure, at least for me, I looked at so many different artists' way of constructing a figure.
Mm-hmm. And
I think every artist does. They're like, oh, look at this Marvel method and How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. There's like, you know, what John Buscema calls the scribble method, where he's just really scribbly working out the gesture. And then he has the more, you could say, block and cube method, where it's really more structural. Is like, oh, here's, you know, I'm drawing the torso and it's more of a box and whatever, you know. And from that, you create your own way. And I've had my own way of constructing a figure for, 20 plus years now. But working with Bart when I was in the Kubert School, what I was doing before I even met him was kind of like what he does. And then with his help, it kind of just sped me along. And that is actually what Joe told me when I interviewed at the Kubert School. Joe actually said, what you're going to learn here in 3 years is about 10 years worth of stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be, this was in the interview to go to the school, the portfolio interview. He said, we're going to cram 10 years worth of stuff down you in 3 years. It's hard work. It's not like regular college where you have, oh, I've got one class today for 2 hours. And then, oh, I have no class today. No, we had class Monday through Friday. We had 2 classes a day. Each class was 2 hours and 45 minutes with a half hour, 45-minute lunch break in between. And that was 5 days a week for 3 years. And then we had about 6 hours of homework every night.
Yes, that's full time.
That's art school.
Yeah, it's full time. None of that. Since it's not a degree program, there was no academics, so there's no English, no history, no math,
right?
No art history. You know, it was just every class was some aspect of drawing.
That's super interesting. For 1 second, Jeremy, I'm going to remove this and bring up something we talked about before we hopped on, but I have put together something called the Ultimate Art Guide, and since we're talking about kind of resources, it's kind of a good segue to this. There's like so many resources out there, and in so many different fields of animation, storytelling, and everybody's got their own different approaches. I figured it'd be a good way to help everybody out by going in here and like isolating them all for us. So it's pretty much everyone that comes on the show. We kind of ask them, what's some of your favorite resources, and we slowly build this thing. And I'm starting to put these links in here, and so yeah, we're getting some cool, solid things now. And I know you mentioned a few things we already have. I'm trying to think. Maybe do you have anything that you don't see? Maybe something that really helped you. That's maybe.
I mean, right out of the gate, unless you haven't scrolled to it yet,
Mm-hmm.
I don't see drawing dynamic comics by me. So
I definitely don't have that. I don't think so. In here.
Oh,
Is
God,
that a storytelling without fitting
that hurts
storytelling?
my
Probably?
that hurts me. Oh my God, it's like somebody just came and kicked me square between the legs.
I'm sorry. Dynamic
No,
storytelling.
no,
Is that what it's called?
I wrote a book that came out in 2000 called Drawing Dynamic Comics. Now you can still go to Amazon, but you have to buy it used because it is out of print. They ran through the publishing company ran through 7 printings, and
Okay.
it's officially out of print now. But it's basically, I know a couple of reviewers, and I think the publishing company itself might have pitched it as a modern take on how to draw comics the Marvel way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wanted to do a book that covered basic drawing, figure drawing, storytelling, pretty much everything. That's why it's Drawing Dynamic Comics.
Nice. So yeah, I'm putting it in the storytelling section. I'm sure you cover anatomy and all this other stuff too.
Yep.
So
Sure
maybe
do.
I could put it up. I'll organize it afterward. Is this
Yeah.
Is this the link there?
That's it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That is it.
Let's see. You got it in the private chat as well. That's good. So I'm going to copy that and put this in here real quick, and we can move on. But that's awesome that you're able to contribute something super original, because I'm pretty sure we're getting it straight from the source. So I'm glad we're getting it.
Yeah,
On the
that's
list.
cool.
Yeah, it is awesome.
There you go.
What's your favorite subject to cover? Like, what's something people, beginning artists, maybe intermediate artists, are missing? What's the most common thing they're missing? What do you think?
I mean, the thing I like talking about the most, and I'm really passionate about, is figure drawing. I mean, I'll be the first to say that when I draw comics, obviously you have to be able to draw everything. It's not like architecture where it's like, draw a building, no people, awesome. Or, medical illustrators where it's like, oh, I just draw people with no skin and hearts and brains. And, we have to draw everything. We have to be able to design everything. But my favorite aspect of drawing comics is drawing people. I love drawing figures. And I was basically taught that if you can draw a figure out of your head, you can draw anything. If you can visualize how to draw a human figure, whether it's a superhero or just a teenager, normal guy wearing clothes, you can do that out of your head with little or no reference. You can draw anything, because at that point, the figure basically is constructed of all the basic shapes. It's constructed of spheres for joints. It's constructed of cylinders for arms and legs. It's constructed of real basic shape, box cube for like the torso and the waist, hip area. So almost I think the only shape that's probably not is a cone.
Yeah,
But
because you get pyramids with like the nose, stuff like
yeah,
that.
you've got, and then all the shapes are modified. Like you said, the nose is more of a elongated pyramid. Obviously, it's not, a
Right.
regular one, because then your face would look weird. But you know what? You say that, then you start looking at real pictures of like really Walmart people, and you're like, my God, that dude's nose is a pyramid with nostrils on the bottom.
Yeah.
Well, I said this on my show on Friday with our guy Noah, NTM in the chat. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
at my school, our it was at SCAD. Our models
Oh, yeah.
were relatively on the heavier side, and our kid in our class was really rude about it. Was like, I'd do better in this class if I enjoyed what I was drawing. And he said it in front of the model, and our teacher was like, there's a bone structure underneath every human body, and there's a ratio, and there's a proportion there. So I'm trying to teach you how to draw in proportion what may look out of proportion.
That's
Just
exactly how the Kubert School did it. See,
yeah,
I was actually going to bring up that the problem with like art figure drawing, it's not even called figure drawing, it's called life drawing in most
yeah, yeah.
colleges,
Mhm.
universities. They call it life drawing, and people think they call it that because you're drawing from a naked figure, the human figure. But that's not what it is, because life drawing doesn't teach you at most universities how to draw out of your head. It just teaches you to draw what you see, which is
Hmm.
life. So they could
Right.
call it life drawing, just throw bananas and fruit on the table and go, we're drawing a still life today.
Hmm.
Figure drawing at the Kubert School was taught, the way they taught it was to teach you how to draw out of your head. So when we
Hmm.
had a model, it didn't matter if the model was,
Yep.
4 feet tall or 8 feet, or, 7 foot tall basketball player, or supremely overweight or super thin.
There's still
Because
good
when we
reference
started
there.
off, right, when we
Yep.
started off in our first year of figure drawing at the Kubert School, he started with the basics. And the basics were, the figure is 8 heads high, and you measure it with the head from top to bottom. I don't care if you're looking at somebody that's 4 feet tall that has a head that's huge. You're going to, whatever pose that figure takes, you're going to draw it like it's 8 heads high. And these are the basic shapes for the mannequin that you're going to use. And that's like what we did for like a few months, was just drawing. Our figure drawings were just basic shapes that we were trying to nail down that 8 head high proportion.
Yep.
And then once we got that, it was, all right, let's throw some anatomy on top of those basic shapes.
Hmm.
And
Right.
you'd go macro down to micro. So you'd go with big anatomy, like the pecs, the
I call
whole
it carving
abdomen
it.
region. Yeah, you're
I call
carving
it
it like a
carving it.
sculpture.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then from there, you'd go, okay, now we can take the deltoids and break it into the 3 separate heads. We can take the tricep and bust it down into the 3 heads, the bicep into the 2. And that's how it was taught,
Mhm.
and it would just really sculpt it down, like you say, to where it was like, okay, this female figure comes in and she might be, 5'4", 250, but you're going to draw her 8 heads high, and you're going to draw a superhero figure, in that pose. The model's just there for the pose.
Hmm.
That's it.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
that's how we learned. And then it got to the point where you're learning the basic shapes and all the anatomy. So it was like, okay, the model's going to pose for like a minute, get as much as you can, and then from there you need to finish the drawing and she's out.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yeah, I think you're nailing a lot of things on here that I try to press sometimes on some of even my early videos, but today it's even kind of crazy because early artists, kids or whoever is aspiring will even jump to color even before they understand the mannequin or even understand some of the basic shapes, and you wonder why you're kind of polishing a turd a little bit, and
it's true, because at comic conventions, I've had this happen a lot. And look, I'm not a dick or anything when I do portfolio reviews, but I'm
Right.
honest. And if
Not
somebody
like me.
comes up, if somebody comes up and you also look at the age of the person. So I mean, if a 10-year-old comes up, you do your critique towards a 10-year-old. But if a dude in their 20s or late teen comes up and they're really off the mark and amateurish, and they're showing me like pages, I'm honest. I tell them, I go, look, you're not at the page level. You need to just be taking a sketchbook and taking figure drawing books like Loomis or Bridgman or Hogarth and copying their mannequins, how they construct a figure. Don't even worry about facial details and anatomy. Just draw the boring stuff. And they don't want to hear it because they don't want to go, oh, I'm rolling around on my back like a baby. And they just want to get up from rolling around on their back to run in a marathon. It's like, no, dude, you got to be able to roll over, push up, crawl a little bit, stand and wobble, walk, run, and work up. And you're going from basically rolling on my back to give me that paper, I'm going to draw a page. You can't.
Yeah, I understand. As I understand that completely, and I think a lot of people do. It's different in practice because you kind of notice that two things happen. You want to draw better, but at the same time, it's not the fun stuff that you're attracted to the fun stuff, and
Right.
not this study session type of thing. My favorite
And I
technique
did the
is
same thing when I was a
yeah,
Mhm.
kid. I didn't really start trying to draw comic pages until high school. So before high school, I was drawing figures, but I wasn't drawing. I did the exact opposite because nobody told me any different. Of if somebody would have told me at like 13 what I just said, I hope I would have listened. But nobody told me any of that stuff. So when I was that young age, I was just taking out pieces of photocopy paper and just drawing figures, trying to fly or run or, superhero stuff,
right.
you know.
It it's definitely interesting because everybody's got their own approach, and you kind of have to guide yourself as much as you hear all
Mhm.
this input. You have to kind of go with like what you feel is right, because at the end of the day, you're the only guy that's going to get up and do the work. But
Mhm.
yeah, sometimes that's the best thing you can do is go to like a school, because it kind of forces you into a certain way. Just to do the mileage of just drawing all the time.
Yep.
But yeah, it's cool that, dude, you and several others that actually have kind of this an early mentorship at the school. I'm a lot of us are jealous of. I said it before, because like a lot of times you're just kind of disconnected on the internet. The internet's great because you get so much information, but you don't have this connection. That sometimes that's the reason why you draw, because like you don't want to let the other person down, or you just have a connection to like their art, even in a deeper way. But for me, I always say it, Freddie Williams, who did the DC guide for digital stuff,
Oh,
he's
that's
kind of
great.
he's kind of like my mentor if I had one. We had a back and forth for a long time, and we still do. But it's cool to know somebody that actually had a one-on-one and got that feedback directly.
Yeah,
So
that digital guide is fantastic. So
yeah,
um,
it got me
I
started
can't,
there.
I can't. That book is great because when it came out, I was definitely a digital neophyte,
Mm,
and I'm not Freddie's level when it comes to like SketchUp, the 3D program.
right.
But I'm proud of myself that I designed Monarch ship. I went to YouTube, and I think I literally typed in the YouTube search how to design a spaceship in SketchUp, and obviously I didn't copy what the guy did. I made up my own ship,
Hmm.
but the way he did it it was like a 20-minute video, and I'm like, oh my god, that is so easy.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
and I
he's
also
great.
must say, I do have my it's right here.
Okay.
I do have
Making
my
big Joe.
SketchUp for Dummies.
Dude, that's great, man.
Yeah.
Dude, I haven't seen a dummies book in a while. I need to go
Right.
get a couple of those. I had one
That
for
book
like,
is like that book's like 10 years old now, I think, but it has a lot of great stuff in it. So,
oh yeah. Noah's saying, what's he saying? Even to this day, when Jeremy stands up, he wobbles.
I don't get that. I don't know what
Dude,
he's talking about.
he's saying like I know you're tall. I call you Bigums for a reason. You're like 7 foot or something. So I can see the wind
Wobbles.
resistance.
Maybe the floor or the house I'm in wobbles, but not me.
yeah.
Well, we'd have to do some studies on that to really get that right. So, dude, there's so many things that I want to pick your brain about. I just see the clock ticking, and I'm like, dude,
I know.
what's my next
Right?
question? Do you have anything, Jeremy? I don't want to take any. Maybe you have a question or something.
I just a massive observation, because Noah is one of those younger ones in here that tries to, always looking for the next like edge to try to improve his art. The one big thing about this campaign is the amount of study you could get just by backing this book as an artist. Check it out and take notes. Like, back the book and study it. The figure drawing is excellent. The background art, the perspectives are spot on. There's certain techniques here I'm zooming in on and going, okay, taking that with me, on my own stuff. And then again, Joe, like how Star Circuit architecture kind of starts to feel. I know this like cityscape here just kind of hits you, but the big thing is every figure is in perspective.
Yeah,
For
it's
the
great.
most part, every figure is setting in a perspective, and that's what I was trying to note at or hint at earlier. Is like it really grounds everything when that character sits in the same world through that perspective. So
Yeah, when you pull it off,
foreshortening is excellent. All of it.
Thank you. I actually learned. I'm trying to think. Not. Well, actually, I did. One of the first things I remember taking some sample pages. I did. This was in 1990 when I was at the Kubert School. I went to a convention and I met Jim Steranko, and I remember taking some pages to him. And one of the pages had, I think it was a splash page, and it had the heroes or whatever, walking, just walking, right?
Mhm.
Not at us, but it was kind of like a side view as they're walking by,
Mhm.
right? And to this day, I'll never forget, Jim was looking at the work and he's like, I like, you're learning, but you've got a good grasp of anatomy and stuff. But the one thing you got to work on, and he showed that it was that page because it was full figures, head to toe walking, obviously on some type of floor, whatever, street floor, whatever it was. And I remember him saying, and he didn't have tracing paper to put over it because we were at a show, but, just with pointing, he's like, these two figures aren't grounded.
Mm-hmm.
They're not their feet
Mm-hmm.
aren't on the ground properly. They're not planted on the ground properly.
Right.
This guy looks like he's floating a little bit. And, being, once he pointed it out and kind of showed me, I was like, oh, I can see that now. But obviously I couldn't see it before. And it's one of those things where from there, I got a book that came out when I was a kid that John Byrne did of they put out a comic book that featured a lot of Byrne's art on how to draw. And then there was also a book called Comic Artist Workshop. It was thin, like 64 pages or so.
Mm-hmm.
And Byrne had a section in it. And he said he starts off every panel without fail, unless it's like a close-up, every panel with a perspective grid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
First thing he does is he lays out a perspective grid in every panel.
Yep.
And then from there he starts drawing. And I was like, oh. So I never really wrapped my head around it until the early 2000s, probably right around 2000. So I was in the business at 9 years at this point, and I started doing that.
Mm-hmm.
For the previous 9 years, I would always rough things out and establish the horizon line, and then draw using the horizon line as my guide for placement and stuff. But I never did a full grid in every panel. And now, since for like almost 21 years now, I start off every page with basically laying out a perspective grid.
Mm-hmm.
After I do my thumbnail, I do a perspective grid in every panel so I can make sure everything is placed on the ground, whether it's furniture or somebody walking in a room, a guy flying down, like on the page on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all.
It does a lot of the work for you.
Yeah.
Well, it totally does.
Yeah.
And and it was just one of those light bulb things going off. NTM says in the chat, if you look at the X-Men pages that Byrne's doing now for his fanfic, you can see the grids in every panel. The thing that impresses me more is, and he's been doing this for years too, he'll lay the grid down with a ruler, but then when he actually draws the buildings and stuff, because the grid is so tight, he just does it all freehand.
Yeah, for sure.
Now I can't do that.
Oh, that's what it looks like you're doing.
I lay down a grid, but then when I draw buildings, I use a ruler even in pencil.
Okay.
But Byrne's doing it with no ruler over top the grid in pencil.
Look, everybody, Pull Out Pigeon makes an appearance in this comic. Back this book.
Yeah. I want to say goodbye to TF. He's one of the writers I'm working with. But have a good night,
nice.
TF. Thanks for showing up.
Have a good one.
But yeah, for me, the perspective grid is something that it's almost like looking into the clouds for me. I see shapes. You're able to visualize the environment. It helps me.
It's a space to fill everything up.
Right. If you build up that creative mind, you're gonna start seeing things in the grid. Sounds like I'm talking neuromancer here a little bit.
Dude, that's the thing though. You're 100% on the money, because if it's a blank panel, even though I have my little thumbnail, and when I do a thumbnail, it's small. It's like 2 inches tall and whatever that would be across, so it's in proportion.
Mhm.
It's a tiny thumbnail just to get the shapes down in every panel, not anything else. But you're right. Once you lay down that grid, even if it's, obviously if it's a down shot, but even if it's like, an upshot where you're not seeing much, your eye will start filling in things because the grid makes its own shapes in your mind's eye, and it just starts filling it in compared to just a blank piece of paper.
Right.
Yeah. Now shapes like these get fun in grids because you've got ellipses, and that's a whole fun thing on that grid is ellipses.
I really like your shapes for the sci-fi stuff. I
do
really
too.
do. It's got a nice. I like a lot of the cutaways. I'll probably steal some of those shapes.
Look even the slight taper. I don't know if the taper here is because of the perspective, but it doesn't.
It's not.
Just exactly that. Just that slight taper to that tower is so nice.
Yeah. So I'm stoked for. I'm stoked to like actually get and dive in because I love watching your process. Actually, can you break that down one more time? Like you work all traditionally, right?
No, I start everything off. I switched a few years ago, not too long ago, within the past 5 years, I think, 6 years. I switched to drawing everything in a program called Sketchbook Pro. I like it better than clip art. I like the way the pencil feels on the Cintiq. So I draw it all in Sketchbook Pro. It's a simple program. It takes nothing to learn. Like when I first opened Clip Studio, I was like, ugh. It looks kind of like Photoshop, but there are just so many buttons on the toolbar and stuff. Sketchbook Pro I use for penciling. Once it's penciled, I'll take it into Photoshop to change it to non-photo blue or light blue.
Yeah.
And then I print it out onto the full-size 11x17 Bristol board, and I do all the inking traditionally.
Okay.
So I still because I like having original art.
Yeah, same. And with your what do you tend to use your tools for inking?
I use a brush like if you were to go to my channel, if you look at the Captain Canuck cover that I inked on my channel this morning, and if you don't want to sit through the whole 2 hours of it, I put up a video that's 13 minutes long of a time lapse of my inking it. But that whole figure was inked with a number 3 Raphael brush size number 3 round Raphael sable hair brush, like an 8408.
Nice.
I think. So the whole figure was.
That's a pretty reliable brush, I hear.
Oh, it's great. But so I do most of my figure work with brush. I do some of the rendering, some of the feathering and stuff. Now, the reason I did it on the cover that way is because I really want to give it a George Freeman feel. George Freeman was one of the guys that did almost all the Captain Canuck stuff when it first came out. So I wanted to kind of ape his finish style for it. But for my own stuff like this, a lot of the feathering that comes out of the black areas, I actually use a brush pen that has a real, it's a Tombow fine point brush pen, and I kind of flick it away from me to do the feathering, so it really tapers off. Really fades away nicely.
Awesome. That's
the outlining and everything else is all brush.
I like your style transition between the hard darks here, and then as it gets to the silver glove and midsection, you're still continuing that shade with the whole style changes, but it still keeps. Yeah, you really get that effect.
It's. I sound old when I say this, but I grew up when I went to the Kubert school and was learning.
I mean, that could be a layer effect.
It was about texture,
but it looks good. It looks real.
No, I appreciate it, but I'm just saying when I grew up, it was about texture, right? Oh, you're drawing rocks, make it look like rock. Oh, you're drawing water, And I remember asking Joe once, Joe, how do you draw water? Asking Joe Kubert that, and Joe goes, I swear to God, he said this. And I walked back to my desk going, what the F does that mean? He goes, you don't draw water, you feel water. And I'm like, what?
Good.
What kind of hippie shit is that? Now, when I was going to the Kubert school, Joe was like early 60s. And I'm like, did you party in the 70s? Because you don't draw water, you feel water? Now I get it.
Part, man.
Exactly. But now I get it. Because when I do water, it is kind of about the motion and the feel of it, the flow. Yeah.
the trajectory.
Anyhow.
And, yeah.
But my point was with the textures is, there are a lot of modern comic artists today that, they started working with in the past decade. They don't do shit for texture. And if you look at their black and white art, it looks like a coloring book because the colorist does it all. And they rely on the colorist.
Yeah.
And I've drawn in that style, but it's really hard for me to do that because Joe really tried to bang into our heads. Your art should look good in black and white, and the color should just enhance it. But in this day and age, it's true. But in this day and age, I'm trying to do a nice mix because the coloring can do so much. Because back then it was flat color, but now it's not. So I'm trying to do a nice mix of both, to where in black and white it still looks nice, but in color, because of the effects that the colors can do, they can just up that game even more.
Oh yeah, for sure. Real quick, hail Zaid. Zaid's here.
What's
up, Phil?
What's up, Phil?
Phil's here. I love that thought because my dream, because I do my own coloring right now, and I do like a kind of a in between, like a two-tone, somewhat of some rendering in there. But I have a dream to do a book that's just flat colors, and get away with it.
It's on the page, but if you go all the way, not all the way down, but far down, I guess there's the parody ad below that, right there.
Yeah.
So
nice.
When I grew up reading comics, there were parody ads, or no, there were ads for updates. Right, real ads.
Right.
With Spider-Man going, Doc Ock, eat a Twinkie, and he's who knew? You didn't have to punch him, just throw him a Twinkie. So I never got to draw any of those because I broke in too late. And I was a big fan of John Buscema and Sal Buscema. So in the first book, I did a parody ad. In the second book, like it says, the parody ad is back. It's a brand new ad that my buddy wrote specifically for this book. And I want to draw it in a more 1970s John Buscema, Joe Sinnott style. I colored it myself because it's just flat color. I've got a newsprint texture that I use for stuff like this that I put over it on its own layer to give it that look. And I try to do panel layouts and everything to throw back to that time period. But I agree with you. I'd love to do a whole book this way.
Yeah, I plan it. I want it. The goal would be to like make it feel fresh, but still have flat colors. And this is purposely retro, obviously, but it still feels great. Like you're impressed by the drawing, the ability, draftsmanship. It's a great idea too. I don't think I've seen many books do this. Maybe Zaid has done, like Phil. I think.
Yeah, Phil probably is attacked some stuff like this.
Yeah. Cardinal says that's the difference between a Shaolin master and the upcoming student at the time. I guess that's between like the color. I guess more color conversation.
Probably.
Yeah.
I was gonna say like I've tried some of the like the coloring of the line. I tried when I was in tattoo, and people were like, "No, you don't do colored line work." And so I was like, oh, okay. And I stayed far out from that. When you were talking about certain effects, there's two areas, like one on your cover. I was wanting to point out are these awesome glares along the back side of that hand that really adds this cool effect. You get some neat and then again the background's just crazy. But your alternate cover here by Mark Sears. I've actually tried using this surge effect. I don't know what you would call that, a speed effect, something like that. And some guys
I think the colorist I work with did a motion blur of some sort down there.
Yeah.
Because if the motion blur, you can rotate it so it goes.
I think it adds so much action to it with like if you got an action punch or something, you can pull that effect off nice. But yeah.
Jeremy's all about that intuitive type of, I guess, storytelling. It seems like that's a version of storytelling. The motion blur, that's telling the story of motion. But no, I'm not even making fun of you, dude. I really believe
it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, the colorist's job is to enhance the storytelling. Everybody's job is the storytelling, even the letterer. When it comes down to, obviously they didn't write it, but the lettering should flow nicely throughout the page. And my job as the penciler is to leave the the space for the balloons. But I've worked with, which obviously I do, but I've worked with my letterer now for, well, I've known him for 30 years because we went to the Hubert School together. But I've worked with him on many jobs, and I don't have to do balloon placement where, I would send him the JPEG with like a circle, like the balloons here and here. I just leave it up to him, and 9 times out of 10, he knows exactly where to place it. And there's that one time I might go, nope, move it up and to the left, or move it up and to the right. But 9 times out of 10, his balloon placement is spot on with how I design the panels.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's really helpful to have that kind of connection, and collaboration. So Ryan was referring to the water part, which makes sense. Yeah. Now the kung fu references are making sense.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So everybody go back Andy Smith's First
You
Man
want
2 learning curve.
Play the trailer?
Yeah, we can do that. Let's do that.
Sure.
Luke Henry, after kicking Monarch's ass to the depths of space, is back on Earth, and now he's looking to save the world from the Fourth World Foundation. Sure, he had help from Penumbra before, but she's not helping him this time. He's got to face it on his own. He's coming for a villain known as Adonis. He'll do it. He'll be there. Back it now. First Man 2, Learning Curve.
Learning Curve.
Dude, I dig that trailer. That's like short, sweet, and like still like impactful. So
thank you.
And who did your motion graphics for that?
Buddy of Graham Nolan's first campaign was the Chenoo, and a guy named Nick really dug it. I think he's out in California, and was like, "Hey, check out what I did." And he did this trailer for Graham, and Graham's like, "Oh my God, can I use that?" And he's like, "Yeah, go ahead." So then Graham hired him for Alien Alamo, and I hired him to do this. And he actually did a trailer that was a minute long, which is just as good, but it doesn't have my voiceover. And I was on Ethan's channel a couple weeks ago, and Ethan's like, "Hey, I'm going to play your trailer, and I want you to give it the Andy Smith gung-ho." And I was like, okay. So I just rattled off some stuff. And the next time I was on Ethan's channel, he's like, "Check this out." And he showed me this that he sent to a mutual friend of ours to edit together. And the guy took it down from a minute to 30 seconds and chopped up my voiceover. And I was like, holy crap. So every now and then I switch them out.
Dude, that's really cool.
He kept the heart, the thing is, and it, at first I was like, man, I paid money for that other one. It's a minute long, but the dude kept everything that the guy did. Like the heart, everything is still there. He just literally sped a few things up and added my voiceover to it. And I was like, holy crap. So
yeah, because that was really cool.
Yeah, it just proves that, like the passion's there. You just have to like pretty much like, put it all together. Sometimes it takes, I used a great guy for my trailer, and that's what it takes sometimes to like have this collaboration between video editors, and it's cool that you did it on the spot though. That's really awesome.
Yeah, well, I didn't know what he was doing. He's just like, just do it. And I was like, okay, I figure this is just for the people watching us now.
Right.
So
you never know what it's going to be. NTM was like, they pulled apart where he went, look at these 4 people.
I did. So it's funny. There was that part in there. And since when Ethan told me who he sent it to, I was like, I know that guy. So I contacted him and we were talking, and I said, dude, you got to do me a favor. He goes, what? I said, pull that. I just sound so stupid. So, I mean, it doesn't make sense. You guys haven't heard it that way, so you wouldn't know. But, where it was at and everything, it was just weird. And it flows so much better now. Dude, and everybody, that is the one thing, though. Until it was pulled, whenever I played it on my channel or Ethan played it or whoever played it, somebody in the comment will go, look at those 4 people. And I'm like,
well, yes, to me, that's like a throwback. I'll probably say that in chat next time I jump on your stream. Because it's just like, it's a good throwback to, just the times. But yeah, seems like, something that I really, because it's not a team book really, it's more focused on one guy, right?
It's the sensibility, humor of a Peter Parker, thrown in with Shazam in the regards that Luke Henry, the college kid, physically transforms from 5'2", 145-pound Luke Henry to 7 foot 280, first man. And when he's in first man, that's not a costume he can take off. That's him.
Right.
And then it has a little bit of Captain Marvel, the Marvel stuff in regards to the cosmic aspect that Captain Marvel had.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I describe it: is throwing those three in a mixer and blending it up. Oh
yeah, the T Public. Totally forgot.
Pick a color.
So you can get any color. Oh, dude, I'm definitely gonna get one. The black looks sharp, but all these colors look great. Yeah, I will definitely be getting it.
Get Joe's color.
There's a penumbra too.
Is there?
So I did make one. I made one of the female as well. I guess you just have to go back to the storefront itself. Oh, there it is. Yeah. She looks good on black. Actually, I just ordered one today of her on black.
Ooh.
So.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be looking into that. It might be my double. It's not really another backing, but I'll probably get one as well.
It still helps me. Hey, man, I get $4 out of that.
Here, hold on. Let's.
We all know how much $4.
Do you mind me throwing that in the chat?
Yeah, throw it in the chat, dude. You're putting it in the private chat, or you're putting it in the.
No, it's in the private chat, and then I also put two links up for your Ultimate Art Guide. I put up Anatomy 360.
Oh, great.
I don't know if you have those already.
Yeah, I have. This is an Anatomy 360 statue, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, sweet.
But it's really helpful. They've got one for male, one female that's like split down the middle where you can kind of see the musculature underneath.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's definitely someone. I forget who recommended that to me way back in the day, but I've got to put that up there too. I'll put those also in the guide. There's a link in the chat as well for that. So yeah, this is pretty much the stream. You guys need to go back. Andy Smith's First Man. I feel like I'm going to be definitely getting the bundle because I didn't get the first issue.
Thank you.
And I was planning to the whole time. Maybe I still will wait a little bit to do it just to make sure I got the funds to get something commissioned as well. But
a little selling point. You can do whatever you want with that commission. I had a guy ask me on the first campaign, could he use it for like a trading card for his own thing? And I said, I don't know.
Yeah, that might be a brilliant idea. That might be
if you make $1 million off of it, I'm going to come a knocking going, dude, come on.
I got a comic coming.
I know.
I'd like a little bit of that.
I was going to say, that could be a nice Star Circuit stretch goal or just like a freebie.
Nice Beckon alternate cover.
It would be. Real quickly, I got no real big updates for Star Circuit.
No, I'd pay more for that. I wouldn't do that to you. No.
But it definitely would be a cool thing to have on anybody's campaign. My book Star Circuit is in the works. It's in the print works. It's already done. It's at the printer. We're waiting for feedback. I've gone through so many proofs trying to get it right. It's something that maybe next time I'll be using like a pre-press guy to get it right. I went through the whole learning curve, wink, wink, of getting the pre-press right, and it took a long time, but it's on its way. So you guys can get the book. You guys can get in the essential tier. You can see the book. You can see this poster, and you can see a layouts and design supplemental book that's all about the sci-fi designs and all the rest that I put into my book. So before you head out, I know we got a backer today right at the beginning of the stream, so I appreciate that. But you also can get this sweet bike. It's a $60 it's like 7x3. It's a very sizable. It's one of the biggest 3D prints you could find.
It's heavy too, cool. Surprisingly heavy. It's got some heft to it.
So it's something you guys can definitely get on. We're encroaching upon 350 backers, which is great. I'm so stoked for that. This is incredible. Please back my baby Star Circuit. It's an 8-chapter miniseries. This is the first chapter. It's a 40-page book. So check it out. But that is it, I believe, for Art Bros. Do you have any last words, Jeremy, before we get?
I had a lot of fun talking the art. It's awesome to be able to go back into those art school memories and go, oh, how's it feel over there on that art school? And it's like, it's the same language, dude. And it's like, yeah, all right, I like it. I like it. So I had a lot of fun. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Same here,
awesome.
dude. I didn't see
Guys,
Charlie.
go back to this book.
I know. He's got any How to Draw Comics the Andy Smith way for Indiegogo in the future? You got one of those coming?
You know, I've said this on one of my streams. I'm playing with the idea because I still have a few years. So if I start thinking about it, putting something together now. So Drawing Dynamic Comics came out in 2000. So I thought, well, what if I added pages to every chapter? It's a 144-page book. I was like, what if I got to look at it, see how many chapters there are, and see how many pages I would have to add to every chapter if I want to make it an even amount, to make it a 200-page book, and then do a 25th anniversary one for 2025. And
we'd all love that, I'm sure.
So that is a thought I've had about doing, do a new cover on it and a 25th anniversary thing. The big thing is I need to actually email the publisher and say, ask them, hey, it's out of print. So is it mine again? Because I own it, but you work with the publisher.
Sometimes there's a time.
I know they could be like, oh no, you've got another year or two, which is fine, because then it's still not 2025.
Right.
But if they're like, nope, you've got 5 more years before it reverts back to you, then it would be a 30th anniversary down the road.
Right.
But yeah, that's an idea that I have, is to expand on that one.
So what you're saying is yes.
Yeah. Because
there's a chance.
There's things in the book I look at that I'm like, ew. Because like anything, you look back at your old work. So there's things I'd like to retouch. But more than that, I think it'd be cool just to add some new stuff and try and bulk it up to 200 pages. So,
yeah, that'd be great. I know I backed Bart's book back on Kickstarter back in the day. Mm-hmm. And I think his second one, I put it on I put on the guide as well, the Ultimate Art Guide, which is really great too. I got the PDFs, but yeah, it's awesome. Also, before we roll out of here, this week, what do we have going on? Anything special? Tomorrow, I think I'm doing a draw marathon with Dark Gift Comics. I think we're doing like this draw crawl or something where it's almost like a pub crawl, but we're drawing something at each person's YouTube channel. And so I'll probably post about that tomorrow. I think we start around 7 or something. So check out that. Jeremy, anything going on, or where can we find you on the web?
Find me at Studio Zaid at Twitter, Zaid Studios on YouTube. We do a show every Friday night, me and my brother. It's about the IP backend that we've been working on for a few years. It's a video game originally, and I'm doing a comic book. So you guys have been slowly watching me get those first 2 pages finished and ready to go, but we're going to be working on a couple panels on that page 2 on Friday. So other than that, a couple game stuff is popping up outside of everything, so that's some good news, but I'll let you know when I can.
Heck yeah, we're stoked for that whenever we can learn about it. By the way, guys, we never bring this up, which is kind of dumb of us, but all the links, every time I ask, like, oh, where can we find you? It's all in the description of the video every time. So we do that for, I guess, just for fun. But you go to the description. All our names are down there. The links for Andy's book, a link for Star Circuit's down there. The link for Beckon on Steam is there as well. So go check it out. Andy, do you have anything else going on this week? Anything to announce that we're missing?
Just doing my live stream tomorrow about 8:30, and that's about it.
Heck yeah, and I put those links in the chat. Go sub to Andy. Everybody needs to do that. If you're watching this on replay, especially you, because you're not, have the pressure. The pressure isn't on you. Go sub right now.
That's right.
And yeah, thanks for everybody joining us. New people I haven't seen in here. We got Booty Juice for the first time. I believe he hasn't been in here before. Everybody else I think hopped in once in a while, and even Herwenberg has been here.
Said, hey, you.
Always giving us some good links. So
thanks, Collision Bomb YouTube.
Show some love. we'll see you this week. I'll see you tomorrow for this draw crawl. And yes, like I said, back Andy Smith's First Man 2. We'll see you next week on Art Bros, everybody. Peace.
Later.